Welcome to 3 Minutes with Matt Lambeau. In this podcast, we examine today's trending topics while identifying common sense solutions from a heightened human consciousness perspective. Our cause is to help educate and unite the next generation with a simplified, more beneficial understanding of the world around them. We aim to open their minds, not indoctrinate them. We ask not to think as we think, but to consider these heightened observations as a new foundation providing common sense solutions to this world's problems moving forward. Of course, if you like what you hear, we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please share the podcast with a friend and tell them that we're here. Number 6, understanding the moral imperative and the empire of evil. This podcast will have 3 parts. First, an overview from a heightened consciousness perspective, then assessing the real world problems here on planet Earth, and finally a common sense solution moving forward. So on to the heightened overview. To understand the significance of terms like moral imperative and empire of evil, we first must elevate our minds above the confusion and human disagreement on planet Earth. To do so, let's consider the movie Star Wars. For those of you that are not familiar with Star Wars, there are 2 main characters that are adversaries. First, Darth Vader, who represents the dark side, the empire of evil, and central control. Then there's Luke Skywalker, who represents the good guys and the rebellion for freedom. Galactical battles ensue as the saga unfolds, but always with good versus evil or freedom versus control as the purpose for the fight. Now, let's take that same battle down to planet Earth and move to our second part. Ask yourself, what is the evil empire on planet Earth? Is there an entity that can be identified? If not, who represents Darth Vader in our world? Are there names of human beings we would consider for that role? Is there even a central source of power on planet Earth that can be identified as evil or seeking control? On Earth, we choose our Darth Vader based on the religious and political words to which we have succumbed. That's right, based on our own individual indoctrinations, indoctrination meaning those words we have been conditioned to believe. Our empires of evil seem to be those institutions that believe the other words or the other indoctrinations, right? For example, some see Donald Trump, which I consider the lightning rod of the 21st century. Some see Donald Trump as Darth Vader, and the others see him as Luke Skywalker. So what character does Donald Trump play in your perception of reality? More importantly, what entity on Earth represents your empire of evil? Well, that's about 3 minutes and the end of part 1. Please stay tuned for part 2. Part 2. Now, on to the solution and the moral imperative. Could it be that if we elevate our minds up above human confusion and disagreement, a more glaring and obvious Darth Vader will come into focus? If not Darth Vader, meaning an actual human being on this planet, can we isolate a possible empire of evil? Absolutely. Common sense dictates that the battle between good and evil and freedom and control, that battle that happens in our Star Wars example, is absolutely unfolding in the battles we experience here on planet Earth. One would have to be blind not to see it. I can't speak for anyone but myself because we all see this world differently by design. But when I elevate my mind up to the Star Wars observation deck, I see a planet Earth controlled by money. Yep, it seems to me that human beings down below all need more money, and that money is controlled by Darth Vader and his dark side buddies. But that's just me. Now, on to the solution, which we'll call the moral imperative. First of all, what is a moral imperative? Here's Wiktionary.org. A moral imperative, ethics, a practice, policy, or state of affairs which is required and justified by the fact that it's morally right. So, is there a human obligation on this planet to fight for what's morally right? Or is it acceptable for human beings to just turn a blind eye to this stuff? Here's a hint. If we turn a blind eye, we get the world we have today, a fallen world. So, who's actually in control of this fallen world? Should we care? I was first introduced to this concept of the moral imperative in the book Why Evil Matters, written by Alex Tsakiris. I consider Alex Tsakiris to be the greatest independent researcher of the 21st century, as his roughly 15 years of research is well documented in his other books and his podcast, Skeptical. So, why does evil matter? One can't imagine the depth to which planet Earth's evil empire will sink. It matters. Moving forward, the solution for the next generation is simple. Unite to understand the common sense source of evil on planet Earth, your planet. Then decide if you have any sort of human obligation to fight for what you know is right. Why should we fight for what's right? Too bad we can't ask Martin Luther King Jr. Well, that's it for now. Please check out our previous podcast if you haven't done so, and consider forwarding this to somebody who could benefit from its wisdom. Thank you for listening.